Hello, everyone, and welcome to our OnePlan Academy hosted Tech Tuesday, a guided tour of OnePlan's portfolio modeler for smart planning. Tech Tuesday is a webinar series presented by OnePlan Academy to provide short, focused sessions on OnePlan best practices, tips, and tricks. Throughout this series, we will explore all aspects of OnePlan with today's focus on how to use OnePlan's portfolio modeler. My name is Deb Roth, and I'm the Director of OnePlan Education and Training and a OnePlan Academy instructor. I'm here today with Tina Shirk, OnePlan Knowledge Architect, OnePlan Community Manager, Stephanie Salsini, and our special guest, subject matter expert, Melody Schultz. All right.
Looks like the majority of us answered that we have some experience with portfolio modeling and use it occasionally.
Our goal today is to help you gain a deeper understanding of OnePlan's powerful portfolio modeler. We're going to help you learn the portfolio modeling fundamentals and Melody is going to use some real-world applications of using the OnePlan portfolios modeler and best practices to help you really understand how to strategically help you align your projects with organizational goals and objectives. Now I'm going to turn it over to Melody.
Hello, everyone. I'm Melody Schultz. I'm an engagement manager here at OnePlan, and I'm happy and also excited to be going over the modeler that we have inside the OnePlan. The modeler allows you to do a lot of top-down strategic portfolio planning. You can create multiple models, different scenarios, and then you can map them out in different ways to meet your goals, even if it's just budget related, resource related, or maybe it's both. You can do a lot of different things based on the type of planning that you want to do, and I'll be going over that and showing that to you throughout this session today. So why is this important? One of the powerful things about the modeler is that you can create models based on any type of portfolio, whether you have a product portfolio, marketing portfolio, IT portfolio, and even OKRs. You have that ability to do that. It allows for multiple people to create their own models using the plans and constraints that they picked, and then share those models with others for viewing and collaboration. And the various features make the OnePlan modeler a versatile and effective tool for managing projects and portfolios and ensuring alignment with strategic objectives and maximizing your business impact. OnePlan portfolio is essential for strategic leaders because it empowers them to conduct comprehensive project and portfolio analysis, ensuring that information decision making with advanced scenario planning and prioritization of capabilities. Leaders can align their initiatives with strategic goals while optimizing resources. It's a dynamic visualization as well. So if you're a visual type person, we have reporting tools to provide some clear insight, facilitate communication and transparency across different teams. And it's a real-time update, meaning that anytime you go into the modeler, that is showing you exactly what your data is today. There's nothing that you have to do in there. You have that real live data, and this just allows you to be, to enable that leaders to be adaptable swiftly with any changes in their business environment. As we all know, a lot of times we get a lot of projects coming in from the left and coming into the right, and somehow we have to incorporate them into our plan that we had outlined at the beginning of the year, and now we have to kind of move and adjust. I'm going to open up my demo environment. So when you first come into OnePlan, a lot of you are going to land usually on this homepage right here. I'm sure you're all familiar with that, but that's usually when you come in. If you scroll down to the different various menus that we have here, you will have this little icon right here, which is called My Portfolio. I'm sorry, the modeler. Got confused there. And if you click on the modeler and you come into the modeler area, as you can see, I already have a couple that I have created. Well, it's pretty straightforward and easy to create a model within inside the modeler area. You have your little blue circle here at the top, and you have two options. You can create model or you can create a folder. I always recommend that if you are going to have other areas using the modeler, say you have different departments or different business units that may be coming in here and wanting to do their own planning for their own areas, it's a good idea to kind of create different folders for different individuals to have access to. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it, let's call it Tech Tuesday. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit add. And that just adds that to my little area right here. So now what I can do is I can go up here and I can decide to add a modeler, or I can go to my little hamburger icon over here and add a model to this as well. One of the other nice features that we do have inside of the modeler is that you can go ahead and you can set security here as well. So I'm going to quickly just click on that. And so what you can decide here is that you can decide what individuals can look at this. So if I go ahead and I add Tina, I'll just take a quick search for Tina. I can let Tina come into this, any of my models that I have within this folder, and I can give her read access. Or I could change that and say that she has the ability to write to my models that I have here, or she can become an owner of them. Now, read obviously is just going to give them read access to the model that you have created or the folder that we're going to create our models in. Write is going to allow them to update any of the models that we have in there, but they wouldn't be able to delete them or get rid of them in any way, shape, or form. An owner will give them full access so that they can delete and manipulate and do pretty much what they need to do. So I'm just going to leave Tina here at read for now. And then I'm going to go back to my little hamburger icon here. I'm going to go ahead and click it. I'm going to say, I'm going to add a model. So here is where you really want to be able to upfront kind of define what you want to model on. What are you planning? So for example, let's say, hey, we really need to focus on resource management, capacity allocations, etc. Maybe that's going to be your focus for this model, or maybe your focus is going to be on a budget. You have a specific budget for your area or for your whole portfolio for corporate wide that you need to comply to, and maybe that is what you're going to plan to. So I always recommend upfront, kind of thinking through, what is our objectives for the year or even for the first quarter, and that you start creating your models based on that. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call this one, let's just say a project planning, because I'm going to do this. I always recommend giving it a good little description here, just so that when somebody else is coming into the system, they can always have an idea of kind of what this model is going to be. We already selected the folder by doing the icon, little hamburger icon over here. So all I need to do, I don't need to change that. But if I wanted to change that and put that in one of the other folders, I could definitely do that. For now, we're just going to leave it in Text Tuesday. Now, what plans? So I already have decided that I'm going to look at all of my project plans, but I could, if I wanted to, if I had intakes or innovation plans in there, if I wanted to add enterprise architecture plans in there, I can do all of that and kind of get a holistic view of everything that's going on in my portfolio and be able to see all of those. So I'm not gonna, you can do some filter lookups. So like, for example, if you wanted to just filter on associated key results, if you only wanted to show those specific projects that had associated key results, you could do some filtering like that as well. I'm not gonna do any filtering in this demo, but you do have the ability there if you wanted to filter down. So to add a specific plan type to my model, I need to go down and find my plan type. And then it defaults to the first plan type that's that's been created in this system, it's portfolio. I'm going to change that to projects. And I could also add another one. So it's the same process. So you would just go ahead and select add another rule. Again, you would scroll down, you would search for your plan type. And you would go ahead. And for this case, we'll just include epics, just so that they have them in the OnePlan system. And epics usually referring to a plan type that's usually associated with JIRA or ADO, or one of those type of applications, and then they just sync back to OnePlan. One thing to be sure that you do, even though we have two here, make sure that when you're on your filter, you want OR. What that allows the system to do is saying, okay, when I go out and look, I want plan type equals project or plan type equals epic, and brings them both into the system. Otherwise, if you do not select OR, it's not really going to show you any data when we go ahead to create the end of the model out here. You want to make sure that you want to give your specific fields to your model. So in this case, because I'm going to be focusing on projects, I'm going to go with benefit, budget, and let's see, let's go with priority score. Oops. All right. So these are my constraint targeted fields, and what that means is that when I'm in the modeler, I am going to use these fields to determine how my modeler is going to look against other models that I created. So these are kind of my different constraints. I'm actually going to remove benefits out of here because I really want it down here in this benefit target field, because that is the benefit target field that we have. So let me see what other field I want to. A good one might be. And again, you can pick and choose which fields you want to have based on what you have in your system. Let me see if we have, we'll go ahead with effort variance for now. Initial sort, so what I'm gonna do here is that I want to be able to sort my projects. I'm gonna go ahead and sort them by priority score. And you can determine if that's gonna be descending or ascending. And so you have the ability to kind of do that. So these are the different fields that from my plan perspective that I want to look at. And now I'm going to pop over to my resource cost tabs. And so here is where I can bring in the various resource cost types that I have. So I'm going to do committed and scheduled. I'm going to add budget in there as well, because these are the different things. I want to see what my resources are committed to, meaning kind of what is the estimate that we put on that specific project that we projected to be what we're going to need for resources in that project. And then I'm going to have scheduled here, which is kind of the schedule, the work breakdown structure that was inside a project work plan. And that is going to show any schedule there as well. And while we're at it, why don't we just go ahead and add timesheets? And that is going to be our actuals that we're going to see on our resource plan for all of the work that our individuals have put into the system, had put time in, and time has been approved. So now I'm going to click Add. And as you can see, the system automatically created my model here. If I go ahead and just click on my model and open it up, you will see all of the different projects that I have in here. Now earlier I put in projects and I also put in epics. And so maybe I want to see inside my modeler which ones are actual projects and which ones are actual epics. You can very well do that quite easily. You have up here on your toolbar across there, you have these little 3 columns here, which allows you to add additional columns to that. So I'm going to go ahead and type in plan type. And then I'm just going to drag that over, kind of put that right above name because I want to see it, but I don't want it to be, you know, right smack dab in the middle of my list of columns that I have here. And so now I can see which projects are epics and which are just projects. So I have the ability to see that as well. So here I am, I'm looking at my different projects that I have in here. And some of them have some benefits tied to them, some have budgets tied to them. And here's the effort variance that I had added earlier on, so I can see some efforts in there. And I can also see the prioritization score. I also have the ability to see the estimated start and estimated end date, and that comes from the work plan schedule. So when the work plan schedule is on a project, that will show my estimated start and my estimated end date in here. So one of the things to keep in mind when you have everything in there, there's a couple different ways you can go about, kind of deciding, especially at the beginning of the year when you're first planning out, or if some of you plan out in the fourth quarter of the year before when you're planning for the next year. You have a lot of different things and a lot of different ways that you can kind of slice and dice your modeler here on how that fits for your business processes. So one thing I like to do is, especially with my prioritization score over here, so let's kind of focus that on first. As you can see, we got some prioritization scores here, quite a few of them. And then we have some here down that don't have any prioritization score as well. So based on just the prioritization score alone, you could go ahead and you can say, okay, these ones are kind of look like low-hanging fruit, maybe not really that important, but what if they are important? What you could do is like, I'm not sure, even though this one doesn't have a priority score, if this is going to, be a project that we need to keep or we don't need to keep. One thing that you can do inside the modeler is I can simply click on that plan. It'll open up a screen here on my right-hand side, and I can expand that out. And I can look at the various information that's in this project. Obviously, this is just a sample data that we're looking at here. There is not a lot of information, but I can look at that and say, from that perspective, maybe for our planning purposes, we really don't need to include this in my planning. So you can go ahead, you just uncheck the box. It doesn't remove it from the system in any way, shape, or form. It just goes ahead and puts it in here in the out, what I call the out box. This means that any plan, epic, or project that we don't want to have in our scenario that we're creating just lives down there, doesn't go anywhere. It's still available within here, and you can add it back if you needed to. So I'm just going to go ahead, just for sample purposes, and just click all of these out for now. And so now I can look at my project that I have here. Now you could just simply, save this and say, okay, this is my scenario. You can call this like your base scenario, meaning that these are just the projects that you want to start with. So you can simply just go, you can save a scenario, and we're just going to call this one base for now. And that's just going to be our base. And that's going to be give us some ability to kind of compare when we move forward. But one of the things that you really can do, and what's really great with inside the modeler is maybe I want to look at all of these projects, where they are. I can see the estimate and the start date, but where do they fall on a Gantt chart? So you have up here in your toolbar the Gantt chart. So here you can look at your different projects that you have, where they start, where they end, and maybe you need to do some adjustments here. We're kind of at the end of Q1. In the schema of this demonstration. So let's focus on Q2 here. So you have various projects that are going to be starting, in Q2. Some are going out to Q4 as well. And maybe you need to make some different adjustments. If you see these little lines here, what that means is that this is associated to another project. And this is showing the linkage between those various projects. So that's one thing to also think about when you're in the in the modeler, that if you have projects that are contingent on another project, or they have a predecessor assigned to them, you definitely don't want to take out the successor of that project, because obviously that next project can't happen until the successor project has been completed. So that's one thing you want to look at as well when you're inside of the portfolio modeler. So I do have my Gantt chart here. And so one thing that I can do is like, okay, product launch. I'm looking at this. I've reviewed it by simply just opening up and looking at the information. And based on, the other different projects that we've got going on here, you may make a decision that, okay, what happens to things if I just go ahead and kind of push this out just maybe to Q3. So the system will kind of update. We'll change that start time to that project. It gives you a different start time, and then you can see it from that perspective as well. So that's just simply how you can kind of organize your different projects, using the Gantt chart here. With the Gantt chart open, You may also be able to move things around and should see how that affects your resources. So I have a little up here again on my toolbar. I got my resource plan. When I click that button, that's going to show me all of my resources that I have within my resource center. It's going to show me the different people names as well as my generics in here, and it's also going to show me, you know, where they're allocated and how much they're allocated. And obviously we got quite a few people here. Gavin, for example, that's kind of in the red. And so what we can do is we can also see by moving things around up here how that is going to affect our resource plan here below. So if I go ahead and let's say take this lean manufacturing, and maybe I'm just going to push that out to the end of Q4 or close to, the system is going to refresh, and then it'll show anybody that has on that project and how that is going to affect them. And the reason that the system does that, let's go ahead and kind of open up this lean manufacturing so we can take a look at this project. Again, I'm going to expand it out. And if I go to my little hamburger icon there and I go to my resource plan, I can see the different resources that are on that plan. Sophia King, you know, she's on there. She doesn't have any allocation to her, but Jan does and Angela does as well. So if I just go ahead and close out by clicking the little X up here, I can go down here and I can look for Sophia here, and I can see where she is allocated as well. I'm trying to find Angel here. There's Angel. And so lean manufacturing, and I can see where that is, where she's added to the project, what her hours are associated to that, etc. So you have the ability to kind of see that. So use of the Gantt chart, you can always move. So if we look down here at Creed and service offering expansion, if you look at that, you can see down here that he's got quite a few hours that he's allocated to. He's got a bunch of hours down here. Maybe it's a conversation that you have with the resource manager and the project manager and say, hey, you know, we have Creed here who's quite over allocated. Can we add additional resources to the service offering expansion or the tray research? Do we have the ability to kind of move him off and exchange him for other users? You can definitely do that as well. So that's another thing that I recommend when you're doing this planning, especially if you're doing it like a yearly planning or even a quarterly planning, make sure you have all the players at the table. So that may be your project managers, your resource managers, your PMO office, whoever those individuals need to be, so that you can make adjustments on the fly wherever you need to help alleviate, you know, over allocation of your resources. So you definitely want to be able to do that as well. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to kind of remove the Gantt chart here so that we do have our different resources and et cetera that we show down here. And there could be cases as well where over allocation is okay. That all depends on what your criteria was. I mean, definitely if I hover over this one, is it going to give me it's not going to show me my mistake there. But you do have the ability, so let's pop out to this service offering. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Yep, again, we'll just pop out to that plan. We'll go to our little resource plan. So you can see where Creed is on here, and he's quite a bit over allocated. If I hover over one of these, I can see that his capacity is 176. And he's already allocated hours of 168. So, you know, like I said, as you're working through these, you may say, okay, let's lower Creed's hours. Obviously, you want to have that communication thing with the project manager as well as the resource manager. And so what we could definitely do is we could say, okay, we're going to lower his hours to 100. Whoops. Still puts him in the red. And still puts him over in hours. But the other thing that we can definitely do is we can replace him with another resource. And so we can drop down his allocation. Just for this demo purpose, I'm just going to pretend that we've applied another resource to him. And so that we can be able to lower his effort on this project. So now if I go back, And I can hit my little refresh here. And if we scroll down, and we see, now you can see that where that has updated and that has changed. So that's where you can kind of use the planner to help you plan at the beginning of the year as far as resource capacity is concerned, so that you make sure that you don't have overcapacity or undercapacity, because that can always be a problem as well, and that you're utilizing your resources in the best way that you can possibly have. Now, below here in this resource column, I am showing it at hours. But if you do your planning at percentage for your resource planning, the system will automatically show you that at the percentage level. It will also show you at the FTE level if you do any planning at the FTE level. It's just a matter of selecting which one that you prefer to show with inside of your modeler. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with the resource plan, so a lot of the functionalities that you're going to see below here are very similar to what we have in our resource plan. You have your committed, your scheduled, and timesheet. These are the items that I selected when I was setting up my modeler. So if I wanted to kind of look at this differently, not from a committed perspective, let's say I'm into Q1, I've done my planning ready for Q1. At the end of Q1, I kind of want to see what scheduled resources look like compared to our committed one. You can also do a scenario for that as well. And then you can save that scenario out and you can do that kind of comparison. You have all of your other options here as well. You know, you can look at your resources, model resources, all resources, you know, all plans, model plans, plan line, committed, proposed. So you have all those different options that you have inside of the resource plan, very similar to below here as well. So if you wanted to do it specifically on don't show any generics as well, you can say no generics, etc. If you wanted to do it by business unit, etc., you can do a lot of those. You do have various charts. So you have this list, which is this chart that we're showing right here. But if you want to do capacity versus demand, you can kind of see that at that chart view there as well. You have the ability to show that at committed, but if you also wanted to see that at scheduled, you can see that it was scheduled. Each one of these colored lines here represents a resource over in the other side. And then this number across the top is just showing you the total effort for all of the projects throughout the various months that you have there. So let's just pop off the resource here. I just click the button to remove that off my plan. Now I'm still looking at my various projects here and everything, but then I remembered that we had a discussion early on or in the later part of the year where we need to start focusing on our OKRs, and that the projects that we wanted to look, do and plan must have, you know, an OKR associated to it. So very similar to how I added the plan type, I can go ahead, click on that, and I'm going to type in key results. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some key results. I think I'm going to put them right before benefit. So now I have my associated key results column here, and because our new planning and what we want to plan on is that we want to work on all of those projects that's going to give us a corporate benefit. So it's going to help us with our OKRs, whether our implementing an automated backup system, increasing application uptime, or implementing comprehensive capital planning processes. Any project that has an associated key results, we're saying as part of our planning here that we want to be working on those projects. Those are going to be our high priority project. Even though we have a priority score over here, we have some projects here. And again, this is just a demo system. So we do have some projects here that because they don't have a key results, we're just going to go ahead and say, okay, let's take them out of our queue here of what we want to look at. But then you may have some other ones here, for example, that don't, like vendor management. You may want to take a look at that. And again, take a look at the information on that. Maybe that even though that does not have an associated key result, it does have a high priority score. So maybe we want to go ahead and we want to keep that one in our project planning that we have here. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of check out a couple other one of these just to kind of give us some really good data here to look at. And then we'll go ahead and we'll kind of keep what we got. And so what I can also do here is that I can save this again as another scenario. So I can save a scenario and I can call that planning, we'll say Q2. And so we can save that as our planning for Q2. What I can also do is I can say, okay, I want this information that I have here, my different columns and everything, I want to save that as a view. So I go ahead and I can say planning view. And then I can go ahead and save that. What's nice about that is when you come into the modeler, you can always use this planning view and it'll have all of these fields in it, just the way you want it. Obviously, determining on what plan types you show in here and what information is tied to those plan types, this view obviously will look a little bit different if you were looking at programs and programs didn't have any associated key results. But this kind of allows you to, set your own views of how you want to have the different columns and fields that you want to be looking at inside of the modeler. All right, now on to, I've got my modeler set up, I've got my projects. I think I'm looking pretty good, but now I know that I have a specific budget that I can't go over. So how do I do that? Well, here you can click on financial plans, and down below here, you will see a budget because that's what I had selected. So I'm just looking at budget, but if I wanted to look at forecasting or actuals, I can also add those to my model when I'm creating it if I wanted to look at them as well. And as you can see, I have some different targets across here, but what the system is doing is taking all of the projects that I have, tallying up their budgets for each month based on when they start and what will be accumulated for that each individual month there. And then I can also say that, okay, I have a $5 million budget. What would that look like across all of this? Well, you could take the time to go ahead and add those into your individual lines there if you wanted to for each, kind of divide that $5 million by 12 and put that across there. Or you can do what's called a spread, which is what I'm going to show you right now. So what I can do is go ahead and take this down to the year, click apply. And then in my budget here, I can go ahead and put in my 5 mil. I think that looks like 5 mil. And so now I've got that in there. What the system is going to do when I go ahead and I switch back to the monthly view and hit apply, that's going to spread that across. And I can see where I have, I'm in the green and where I'm red. And as you can see, plan totals here. So I may have to make some adjustments here in January and February to meet the demands of throughout the rest of the year. Or because I have a lot of demand in March, et cetera, maybe I need to start looking at additional projects that I need to be taking out because we just don't have the budget to do those specific projects. So you want to look at that as well. If you needed to make any changes in any one of these line items, like if I wanted to go ahead and just say, okay, for this one, I'm going to just change that to, let's go with 136 and change that. And then that's going to adjust anything else that I do across any one of these. So if I adjust anything in any of these columns, it's going to adjust the target budget as well. So I can see that I'm in the red here and everything like that. I may want to go up here and start looking at different projects that I have going on in those different months. Maybe we need to push them out. Maybe we need to pull them in for the month of January, February. Obviously, those months have gone by, so you probably wouldn't be pulling anything in. But then I can say, okay, I've got my target. And that's my target budget. I did adjust it right here. I can go back and kind of put that back to 5, but I'm pretty happy with this scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually let me quickly just switch back to year and make that update so that we still have that at 5. Okay. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and switch that back. And so that's my budget. And so now I can go ahead and okay, I'm going to save this as another scenario. I'm going to call this, we'll call it budget 5 mil, and I can save that. Now you may be thinking, it's like, okay, so I've got my budget here. I've got it set up. I see all of my totals here. I've got a lot of areas that in the red, but we have a contingency fund of another $1 million. So what would happen if I went ahead and added that additional $1 million into my budget for contingency fund? So again, I'm just going to cheat here a little bit and kind of go to year. Let's go ahead and add in the 6. And I have that. I'm going to go back to my month, hit apply, kind of see how that. So it does make a little adjustment here in November. That's kind of in the yellow, but it did do that kind of spread across there so that we can see how everything looks there as well. Obviously, you don't want any of your budget to be in the red because obviously that's telling you that that's over, and that's where you may go ahead and say, okay, looking at April, cybersecurity enhancement, is that something that we can push off to a later date? So let me see if I can find cybersecurity enhancement here. So I'm looking at this one right here. I can put up my Gantt chart and I see my cybersecurity. I can go ahead and I can kind of push that out. System's going to do a quick update, and then you'll see some adjustments happen in that month of April to my various numbers down there. Maybe cybersecurity enhancement isn't something that we want to start at all this year. Maybe we want to push that off till next year. I can go ahead and I can unclick that from my scenario. System again will update and it'll show you, the changes that has made across the different projects that here. So if I scroll down this side, you will see that cyber security enhancement is no longer in my budget review down below. So my numbers will adjust accordingly based on what I have throughout, and based on each month that I push a project out or I pull a project in, those numbers will adjust. All right, so I'm going to go back down to my outbox here and take my cyber security one that I just checked out. I'm going to go ahead and put that right back in. Again, the system's going to update. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this scenario, and I'm going to call it budget 6 mil. All right. So now I have my budget for 6 mil, and so this is where you get to do a lot of different things with the analyzer. And so you can see here in the analyzer, I have my plan Q2, I have my budget 5 mil, and I have my budget 6 mil. So you can see that it shows a different comparison, total prioritization score, what that looks like, my total effort variance, what that looks like, and my total benefits. But I can also, do some specific scenarios. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, I want to compare my budget 6 mil to my budget 5 mil and do some comparison. And what the system is going to show me here is it's going to show me all of my different projects, my priorities, my budget priorities within the system there. I can also look at this from a dashboard perspective as well. So let's go ahead, we'll do our 5 mil to our 6 mil, do some comparison there. And then you can kind of see from a budget perspective where each one of these ends up following, number of checked plans, that's the plans that we have at the top. The budget, what's the budget, where we land in the budget, whether it's 5 million or 6 million, and where we land with prioritization score. You also have a lot of other different, your effort variance, and these are all based off of various things that I selected in the beginning when I was creating it. And so you will see that information down here as well. Another functionality that we have inside of the modeler is the visualizer. So for example, here with inside the visualizer, like I said earlier, you may have some plans that are projects that need to be completed before another project can take off. So you can see that. So for example, we have data warehouse migration, and then we have improved IT infrastructure. So we want, those are related. So we want to make sure that when we're looking at our planning, that we're also looking at any dependencies that we may have between projects, because obviously we don't want to be moving projects out of our planning if it has a dependency on another project. You can also look at this from a runway perspective. So if I could come in here and I can say, I've got my plan, maybe I want to, let's say, see what the key results are associated to that. So I can go here, I can select my key results and hit add, click OK. And then you can start seeing the comparison there as well. So you can see that this plan is associated to just this key results, but you can also have many plans associated to different key results. What this allows you to do is kind of look at the data and say, okay, if our goals for this year is to, meet our objectives, our OKRs, then we obviously need to be looking at those projects that have a lot of ties to a lot of different OKRs that we have in the system. So those might end up being your priority projects that you look at, because you're comparing those to your key results. So this also gives you another visual that you can use to kind of help you determine what projects that you want to work on and why you're choosing to work on those projects specifically. So you have that kind of ability, and you also have the dependencies as well. You can also look at dependencies, from selected plans to unselected successors. And if you have those set up within the system, then they will show there as well. There's a lot of different other tools that you have at the top here. If you're into pivot charts, you can do some pivot charts. You can export out any of the data that's in here that you saved in your scenario. You can export that out. However you want to export that, you can have the ability to do that. And then you can look at a bubble chart. So if you're interested in a bubble chart, obviously you want to select your different fields here. I'm going to take budget. And let's do benefit, and then let's do committed effort. And then we'll go ahead and click on that. All you have to do is simply click, and then it will show you, you have your benefits down here, we have our budget here, and then this is just showing us the committed effort. So product launch, a large one, has a lot of committed effort there. Facility expansion, and then you have a lot of little tiny ones down here as well. Again, the bubble chart is just a nice little visual, to help you out there to look at different things. And as I said, you can select a lot of different X's and Y's, how you want to view that bubble chart within the system. And I think I touched on analyze. That's this little section down here. I did touch on that as well. Again, if I wanted to export this out, I could definitely export that out into an Excel. And then when you're pretty much done with your scenario, you just go ahead and you click up here. But if you like the list view, that's great. If you would like to look at this kind of from a board perspective, you can do that as well. So we need to just select a few columns for our board. Let me see here. What do we got here? Let's go with business unit for now. And so you can kind of see things there and kind of that business unit. So if you wanted to see your applications, your capital planning, your IT, your marketing, you kind of have that board view, which is kind of nice. And then you have some, different ways that you can kind of look at that. You can do your count totals, you can color them, you can provide different lanes if you wanted to look at them from, a benefit perspective. You want to add that. Do we have that in there? Business value lanes, you can look at that. So you have a lot of different options inside of this board. I personally myself like the list view because I just think it's a little bit more cleaner and gives me a really good visual of the data, but did want to just touch on that briefly, that you do have that board view as well. I'm going to go ahead and to just leave the modeler, you can simply click out here on anything else, or you can just go ahead and hit the X up here in the upper right-hand corner, right under your picture. And that'll take you back here to your modeler area. And again, like I said, you can create models on every plan type that you have inside of OnePlan. You can add multiple, as I just did, projects and epics. You can add your intakes, your portfolios, everything that you may want to be managing your budget or resources against. You have the ability to kind of do that. A good example is, I know a lot of my clients have product lines and applications, and then they have projects associated to them. So to get a holistic view of all the costs and resources associated to a specific product, they use the modeler to kind of pull all that information into one central location and then be able to model it off against that. You know, what are we going to what are we going to need for resources to maintain all of our applications? What resources are we going to need for a project? And kind of having that holistic view from a resource perspective, you know, so that you can manage your capacity correctly. Another thing that I see a lot of is obviously the budget. You know, what's the total cost of having a budget, your application or a product? Having the visibility to kind of see that within the modeler by pulling all of that information into one central location and looking at it holistically. So Deborah and Tina, I think I left you a few minutes there. So if you're good to go, I'll be happy to hand it back to you.
Awesome.
Sure thing. Awesome.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Deb. And thank you, Melody, for that great session today. That was a wonderful walkthrough of the modeler and how you can really start to leverage that to do some of that strategic high-level planning in your organization. Again, this is just a run through of what Melody went through today. So we talked through basically end-to-end walkthrough of the portfolio modeler, learning the fundamentals of how to use it, as well as she incorporated lots of best practices as she was walking through walking through her session. And finally, culminating in that strategic alignment, understanding how you can strategically use the modeler to help you make those high-level strategic decisions for your organization. So as we're wrapping up, if you want more additional resources beyond this webinar, we have lots of resources on the portfolio modeler in our OnePlan support portal. We also have our OnePlan Academy, which is our learning site that you can get lots of in-depth tutorials on how to use OnePlan and really get yourself going.